Anime can be expressed in several ways, with limitless possibilities, creating such gorgeous art styles and animations that are so memorable and imaginative. But what if you took that all away? Seems kinda dumb, yet that is where live action anime comes in, a concept I don't quite understand. Taking away a huge amount of elements that make anime special feels pointless, and I don't get the reasons for them. It's probably for money. Also, I will be spoiling some major things in specific series I'll be talking about. So, I've recently watched a few to get a taste and a better opinion on the strangeness of live actions, and I have certain feelings for them. Especially the god-awful live action of Full Metal Alchemist. I don't even know where to begin. It's just a terrible film in general, and not even a film that is so bad it's good, it's so unenjoyable. It took me so long just to finish the 2-hour movie, and the worst part is there's another 2 movies after this one. Am I gonna watch them? No, I don't want to. The first one was bad enough, I don't want to suffer. But the amount of problems this film has is absurd. The way the story plays out is so dumb. First of all, there are so many characters missing. The Grandma Lady, Armstrong, Barry the Chopper, Ling Yao, Bradley, Scar. A lot of characters that should be really important to the plot are nowhere to be seen. I know that there are a few that appear in the other movies, but to have such important characters not appear in the first movie is so confusing, and it messes with the storyline so much. Why not have at least Bradley? Instead we have this Hakuro guy who I don't even remember in the anime, but he just happens to be one of the main villains, I guess. Even the characters that are in the film get ruined. Remember Marco, the guy that creates Philosopher's Stones for the war in Ishval? Yeah, he gets killed within 5 minutes of seeing him. And even when Maria Ross got framed for killing Hughes, they instead switched it to be Roy Mustang to be the one to get framed. But the worst of all is Alphonse. There are many scenes in the anime where Al should be present, but in the live action it's mostly Ed who does everything. Al fades more into the background, which shouldn't happen because he is literally one of the protagonists. I feel like the only reason Al isn't in it as much is because since he is CGI, my guess is that they wanted him in the least amount of scenes as possible just to save money, and only keep him in ones that are extremely important. And when he is in some scenes, it seems like he moves the least as possible, just to make it easy for them. But even through all this, there are worse offenders in the movie by ruining some of the most iconic scenes in the series. Such as when Al thought he was some kind of puppet, thinking his memories were created, and went to talk to Ed about it. Well, this was so unbelievable in the live action. In it, they both start wailing on each other. I swear Al could have killed his brother several times. Then Ed starts smacking Al's face over and over again until his fist starts bleeding. He does this twice. And I know that Al can't feel pain, but Ed would never do this. He loves his brother. This is a punch full of hatred. He does fight him in the anime, but that was more reminding him about the times they used to spar each other in training, or little fights they would have when they were younger. It was just to remind Al about these feelings he always had. So I don't know what the live action was thinking. And then there's the scene with Mustang burning lust till she dies, was also dumb. And it wasn't really the part where he was scorching her, that was whatever, but it was the way he killed her. All he did was grab the stone in her chest and rip it out as a final killing blow, but it's dumb because this exact thing happened in the anime, yet it didn't kill her because the stone was still intact, making it easy for her to regenerate. So it makes no sense on why she would die here. There's also another major scene that got to me, which is the messed up and emotional part of Nina and Alexander becoming a chimera. This was one of the most memorable parts of Full Metal. People bring it up all the time from how upsetting and insane it is. It's a scene that is hard to forget about, but what did the live action do? It made this incredible moment worse in every way. It is not emotional in the slightest. They did the bare minimum, especially with the lighting. Look how bright the live action is compared to the anime. I hate it. The lighting in the anime was much darker with a bit of light that dimmed through the door, to show that it was sinister, to give a feeling that something wasn't quite right. And then there's the live action, that didn't even bother to close the curtains. It's awful. This live action honestly made me sad after watching it, and I didn't want to force myself to watch the other 2 adaptations, so I moved on to something else, which is Zom 100 Bucket List of the Dead. The anime series has gotten quite popular lately, and I would say it's a pretty alright show from what I've seen, and a live action film of it came out not so long after, and to be honest, the live action isn't actually that terrible. Would I say that the movie is amazing? No, but I wouldn't call it bad either. It's a step up from the lame Fullmetal Alchemist live action. And I think it's because Zom 100 has a simple run-of-the-mill zombie story about a dude that got tired of their job, and when a zombie outbreak happened, he's relieved since with no more job to go to, he just wants to do all the things he couldn't when he was working. So it's much easier to adapt into a movie compared to Fullmetal's more deep meanings and complex writing. I feel that Zom 100 doesn't necessarily have a super engaging or well fleshed out storyline, so it works well in the live action's favour, since it can change things around and it wouldn't matter too much, since the plot was never really that amazing in the first place. Now, do I think the live action is better than the anime? Upon thought, I think they're both quite equal. I think the story flows quite well as a movie, and it doesn't stay on one scene for too long, and it doesn't feel messy, which live actions often do to get as much of the storyline from the anime as possible, but in such little time. I also think that the main character Akira is a lot less annoying in the adaptation, but there isn't much that I can say that was really good about this live action. It was just fine, it worked well enough. There were definitely things I didn't like. I'd say the zombies do look a bit off-putting, not in a scary way, because that would make sense, but it's just their eyes are weird and look out of place. There's also a rooftop scene I feel like they should have added because it adds development for a character's growth, but the live action doesn't do that and transitions to a different scene. And then there's the section with the zombie shark. Yeah, this just looks really silly compared to the anime, but all in all the live action wasn't a complete letdown when you compare it to such things as Fullmetal, so that was a bit of a surprise. Wish I could say the same for Assassination Classroom, because it's not any good. It suffers problems I know many live actions have, where it tries to put as much of the anime into their 2-hour movie, so the pacing is very messy, not leaving enough time for each scene, trying to cram in 22 episodes of the series. And of course there were many moments removed entirely, or it changed certain aspects. This doesn't matter as much with Assassination Classroom, as there are some parts in the anime that don't matter a lot if they get removed or changed slightly. But the problem with the live action is that it doesn't flow well as a film. It would just switch to something different. One second they'll be trying to kill Koro Sensei in their big plan, and the other second the students will be collapsing from some kind of poison I never remember them consuming. If you haven't watched the anime and go straight to the live action, I think you would struggle to keep up with everything going on, since it's so random. And about the scene of the first proper assassination attempt on Koro Sensei, it's so pathetic. It was so lazily done. The anime had this whole elaborate plan with a ton of thought into it, just to have a chance of outsmarting and killing Koro Sensei. But the live action didn't make any sense, because all the students did was tie him up with chains, then cover him in water, and lastly repeatedly shoot at him. This is so silly. What's the point of dousing him in water when he is already chained up? And he also never agreed to be detained like that in the first place. He only agreed to get a few of his tentacles shot off because the students did well in their exams. So I don't know why he willingly gave himself up. It's dumb. To be honest, Koro Sensei looks kind of out of place in this movie. I did get a bit used to him after a little while, but he looks so strange in some scenes. Like when he moves quickly, sometimes it looks so cheap, especially the part when he makes a web to save Karma. It's just way too cartoonish, it doesn't work at all. You can tell that it meshes with everything else. And while on it, I gotta talk about when Karma jumped off the cliff. It's so goofy. You can tell that he was attached to some rope while doing it. It's like they didn't even try to hide it. So this is another live action letdown that I don't want to see again. It made no improvements whatsoever to the source material, so I don't see the point in watching it besides curiosity. Lastly, the live action that fans have been looking forward to, One Piece. Now I don't have a complete opinion on the show, since I only watched 2 episodes, which is about 2 hours long. I know that I should have watched more, but to be honest, I didn't like it, and I'd rather not watch another 6 hours of a show I didn't like the first 2 hours of. Yeah, I see the effort that was put in. The sets look amazing, it's impressive. The creativity in the ships have all got personality, with little details to make them stand out amongst others are very nice. The characters' clothing suit with their anime variants. The choreography and the fights are alright, but the thing that it does which many live actions suffer with is not improving anything from the original, but making it worse. There is barely anything the live action does that is better than the anime. At least from the episodes I've seen, it confusingly doesn't feel like One Piece, if that even makes any sense. The characters don't feel like the characters I know.
Zoro acts too much like an edgy cool guy, making sarcastic remarks now and then. He is a bit like that in the anime, but that has slightly more humor with him, and he only gets serious when he's battling, to show a laid back, nicer and likable side to him. But most of the scenes of Zoro in the live action I've seen have been mostly him fighting, so I hope he does change later on. Nami goes back and forth with people, which is what she does in the anime, but for this Nami it's more annoying and unlikable. But Luffy isn't bad, but he still doesn't work for me. He does act all simple-minded and straightforward, but I think for him and the rest of the characters, they don't work as well in a live action setting. Luffy has a very animated personality, with many of his little expressions, his goofy behaviour and fighting styles he uses would be hard to replicate in a live action scene, and it doesn't work as well in this, it comes off as more awkward. The same goes for Buggy, he is way over the top. He's too insane crazy instead of a more silly crazy he's known for. And the CGI on him can be very off-putting at times. The CGI in general is a mixed bag. Some of it looks quite good, but then some of it is a bit weird. There were also some specific parts changed from the anime that I don't really understand. The whole thing with Zoro being tied up was confusing. In the anime, he was there for something like 3 weeks, needing to be there for a month, and in the live action he was there for 5 minutes. It's a very strange change I don't understand. The moment where the girl gives Zoro the rice balls was done so unusually in the live action. The girl just approaches Zoro randomly where he has a dismembered corpse in a bag right next to him, and the girl wants him to eat her rice balls she specially made for him for some reason. The anime made a lot more sense with this, because Zoro helped the girl before, and the girl knew he was dying of starvation, so she wanted to help. So I don't understand why this was changed in the adaptation. There are also some memorable scenes that aren't there, such as the one with the dog protecting her owner's store, which was quite an emotional scene, yet the dog does appear in the live action for 2 seconds, so it has that going for it. I do see the passion and hard work put in, and unlike some other live actions that were sloppily put together without much care, but the original One Piece does everything better, and I know I've only seen 2 episodes, yet I don't see much point in watching another 6 hours of a show I didn't like from the start. If I want to enjoy a show, it has to get me hooked from the get-go. From all the stuff I've talked about, I've learned that it's hard to create a live action from a show that works best animated. There is so much in anime that is a challenge to convert into a live action setting, making it almost impossible, especially with animes that are not realistic in the slightest. Yet live actions keep coming out constantly. There are some that I've only recently heard of. Mob Psycho, Black Butler, Parasite. There are actually a lot more than I expected. They're even making an adaptation of one of my favourite anime, Link Click, so they obviously have some type of fan base if there are so many. I feel that live actions very rarely work. Even when they can, it still feels quite average. But there are some that you can definitely get enjoyment out of, because some of them are funny.
どっち？お前本当に霊能力あんのかよ。出た！
So with my experience, live actions are not great, but I don't have a hatred for them, just more of a confusion on why it was made in the first place if the anime already exists, and is most of the time much better. Yet it interests me to see what direction these live actions go for to entertain its audience.